Pope Francis addressed journalists accredited to the Holy See press office at the Vatican this week. He thanked the press corps for their reportage on the church, scandals and all. Here to report is one such journalist, senior correspondent for the National Catholic Register, Edward Pentin. Edward, thanks for being here. In his remarks, the Pope encouraged reporters to base their work on, quote, the solid rock of responsibility for the truth, end quote, and not the shifting sands of gossip and ideology. The Pope then added the following improvised remark. I would like to add the delicacy that you so often have in speaking of scandals in the church. There are some, and many times I have seen in you a great delicacy, a respect, and almost, I say, abashed silence. Thank you for this attitude, end quote. Edward, what is your take on that comment, particularly where he thanks the press for what he calls abashed silence?
Yes, it's a rather strange comment, Raymond. I mean, I think what he's trying to get at primarily is that he thinks it's important to treat these issues with delicacy because they are scandal to the faithful, and so they need to be handled with care. But then he thanks, as you say, he thanks the journalists for an abashed silence. And of course, this is rather problematic because, of course, during the sex abuse crisis, the media, or rather the church, was silent about these scandals. Didn't want them reported, and now he's saying, well, it's good that you're not actually reporting some of these scandals. And indeed, the media has been generally very friendly to the Pope. Of course, they have reported some scandals, but on the other hand, there have been times where they haven't, and especially even in the Catholic press, certain issues have been sort of passed over when they probably should have been talked about and reported, causing quite a lot of concern. I think I talked to a senior Vatican official earlier today, and he was saying that if any other world leader had said this, it would have been major news and major headlines, because he's basically saying, well, stay silent when there's a crisis and a scandal. So it's a rather strange comment. The only one that he actually made off the cuff. So interesting.
Edward, who is he talking to here? I mean, we have to paint the picture. It wasn't just anybody. This is, I call them, perhaps cynically, the kept puppies of the church. Look, I feel the same way about when I was a Capitol Hill correspondent. We were the kept puppies. And when you're a kept and fed puppy, you have to kind of toe the line, because if you report something outside the line, you get your hand slapped and they won't talk to you for a week or two.
Yes, it is a bit like that. I mean, I think the majority, sadly, the Vatican press corps does tend to be like that. That it tends to report, the positive stories in a sort of public relations way, without actually tackling the tough issues and asking hard questions, and also being critical about not just the scandals, but the accusations of heresy and blasphemy and sacrilege and heterodoxy that have grown up in this pontificate.
This address has been widely reported, especially in the Catholic press, as Pope Francis encouraging in-depth coverage of church affairs, including the more controversial and even scandalous stories that we've seen in recent months. Rupnik and same-sex blessings and the Beishu and Vatican finance story. Edward, is that what you and your colleagues heard from the Pope here?
On these scandals that you mentioned, I think he's he tended to be quite he's kind of pushed them aside, and I think he's been happy that the media hasn't perhaps come onto them so strongly, and I think that's the case here. I think he's actually been quite. I think he's actually speaking his mind here, perhaps imprudently on his part by actually saying this, because I think he's sort of saying what he's thinking, which is that he's happy that there has been silence about these scandals.
Before we run out of time, I want to get your take on the growing dissent to Fiducia Supplicans, that document on same-sex blessings, really all over the world. Retired Hong Kong Cardinal Joseph Zen said this week that the document creates confusion and that the doctrinal head, Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez, should resign. How is the Vatican processing all of this and the growing list of bishops and bishops' conferences who are rejecting the document out of hand?
Well, as they often do, Raymond, they tend to ignore them, and it's interesting. Somebody once said to me the other about the way the Vatican treats scandals and bad news is that they tend to absorb them, and then sort of suffocate them and hope that they just sort of die away. And I think that seems to be what they're trying to do here. They just tend to ignore it. There's been so many now comments criticizing this document and calling for Cardinal Fernandez's resignation too. But they all tend to be, and they just sort of hope they go away. And actually that tends to work. They do tend to go away, and they just move on to the next one.
Well, especially when you have a compliant press corps that kind of looks the other way and reports on, the renovation of the latest mural, or the Pope walked up and kissed a baby today. All those important breaking stories. In a related story here, I also want to mention this is the week of prayer for Christian unity and the ecumenism it attempts to promote. How is fiducia, that this document on same-sex couples and blessing them, how is that affecting ecumenical relations with other faiths, and specifically with the Anglican Communion, whose bishops are meeting with their Catholic counterparts this week in Rome?
Well, I mean, the Orthodox Church has been quite strongly critical of this, and actually say that it's probably making it very, very difficult, if not impossible, to continue with ecumenical relations. But the Anglican Church is slightly different. I mean, they've sort of pushed this along quite strongly and for a long time now. And I was talking to a very senior Anglican leader only yesterday about this, and he was saying that that they're very supportive of fiducia supplicans and thinks it's a good thing. It's all part of more hospitality, bringing in every Eucharistic hospitality and bringing everyone in. And this particular official said that his views are almost identical to the Pope's. So it's interesting that the Anglicans seem to be very much on board with this. And see perhaps the Catholic Church is sort of following their lead, because they've, in many parts of the Anglican Communion, have already gone down this path.
Well, and the pattern is even the same, because you had the Africans up in arms when the Archbishop of Canterbury and their synod approved these gay blessings many years ago, and it seems the same pattern is following in Catholicism. The Archbishop of Canterbury also, Edward, we should say, for the first time in my memory, and I think in anyone's memory from the folks I've spoken to in Rome, you had the Archbishop of Canterbury, with the Pope's permission, celebrating an Anglican communion at a Catholic church in Rome. Well,
it's interesting, Raymond, because this hasn't really made much of a headline, but it is quite unprecedented. At least I can't remember all the time I've been reporting on the Vatican in Rome of an Archbishop of Canterbury coming to celebrate an Anglican Eucharist in a Catholic church. But this isn't just any Catholic church; it's the Basilica of Saint Bartholomew, which is dedicated to the martyrs of the 20th century. But even so, it's which are all martyrs, whether they're Catholic or not, the Christian martyrs. But it is quite unprecedented, and I don't think, as I say, I don't think an Archbishop of Canterbury's done this before. So, but again, you see, only last year we had the Anglicans celebrating their Eucharist in St. John Lateran, which caused a huge scandal. But it now seems to be that wasn't such a mistake. It was probably planned. But as somebody said to me tonight, it's all part of really turning the church into a more political organization than a church one, by letting everyone come and receive the Eucharist, whoever they are. And this is causing, again, concern for a lot of people.
Confusion, more confusion. And it's a curious moment in history that we've reached, Edward, where in a Catholic church, in an esteemed and historic Catholic church in the heart of Rome, you can celebrate the Anglican liturgy, but you daren't celebrate the old Tridentine rite. We will leave it there. Thank you, Edward Pentin. You can follow Edward's reports at Edward Pentin or at the NC Register. Thanks so much, Edward.
Thank you, Edward.